Hi everyone. So today we're going to be starting with talking about solving proportional equations. So let's all turn to page 9. All right, so let's establish some basic terminology and definitions. All right, so something to keep in mind when we're solving proportional equations. Okay, a fraction is going to be undefined when the denominator is 0. Okay, so when the denominator is 0, it's going to be undefined. Okay, if it's not, we can only set the denominator equal to 0 and then solve for whatever the variable is. So just a few examples here, all right? I just said find the values of x for which the fraction is undefined. So really you're just checking to see, well, what can x not be? And I'm just going to go through just this first example for us, okay? Because I'm going to get to the more important things coming up. But just for an example, we just said the denominator cannot equal 0, so that's it. In this example, x just can't equal 0. Similarly over here for question 2, again, we know the denominator can't equal 0, so we're just going to solve that equation. I have x plus 5 equals 0, does not equal 0, sorry, and then subtract the 5 on both sides, and we know x cannot equal negative 5. All right, so I just did those with you guys, but again, I want to get to the more important concept, but those are important things to keep in mind. Just make sure that denominator never goes to 0. So first thing we want to fill out, when we're finding solutions to a set with given proportions, we are going to cross multiply. All right, cross multiply. And then we'll solve the equation for the given variable. Okay, so let's get started. Let's do the first problem. So we have our two fractions, and we're going to cross multiply because, again, we see a proportion. Our first step says cross multiply and then solve. So let's do the cross multiplication. All right, I always encourage you, do this first. Put parentheses around the numbers every time. Okay, I don't care if you know how to do it already. Please put parentheses. It's good consistency. It's not that I don't care. I want you to do it, because if you forget, then you'll make a mistake. All right, so first question we're doing together here for question 7. So we cross multiply. We have 4 times x is going to equal 3 times 2. Keep the parentheses, right? Now we can again combine. We have 4x is equal to 6, and we want to get x alone. And to get x alone, we need to undo the operation between them. So to undo multiplication, we use division, right, on either side of the equal sign. And I get x equals 6 over 4. Now that can be simplified, and I'll show you guys in the calculator. Okay, so here's my calculator. I turned it on button down here. And we have the fraction 6 over 4. So we're going to do 6 alpha y equals enter 4, right? Because I have 6 over 4, okay. Notice how I just entered that in the calculator and I got a reduced fraction of 3 over 2. So I'm going to write. That's my final answer, okay? If it was a multiple choice, you wouldn't see this. You would see x equals 3 over 2. And then, of course, you always go back and check. Go back and check. Okay, let's do question 8 together. And you guys are going to do 9 and 10. All right, so again, I already put the parentheses around here, which is good. All right, so I don't need to rewrite it, but I have the parentheses around there. And let's cross multiply. So we're going to multiply these together. 6 times x plus 1. And we're going to multiply these together. All right, so if the color coding helps, go for it. Okay, now let's start to simplify. We'll distribute. So I have 6x plus 6. Notice, if you don't put the parentheses around this x plus 1, you're probably going to end up doing this if you don't put the parentheses, which is wrong. Okay, 6x plus 1 is not the same thing as 6x plus 6. So that's why I encourage you, please, oh please, use parentheses, right? So this would have been wrong. Okay, so that's the left-hand side. I have 6x plus 6 equals 5 times 2 is 10. And we want to start to get x by itself. So I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality and bring 6 over to the other side. And now I have 6x equals 4. And again, we want to get x by itself. So to get rid of this 6, remember the operation between 6 and x is multiplication. So I'm going to use the division property of equality. And again, this is not simplified completely. I can use my calculator and end up finding that it equals 2/3. So same thing as what I did over here, guys. You're just going to alpha y equals and then enter. And then you'll get the fraction and reduce it. Awesome. Okay, you guys are going to do questions 9 and 10, and I'm going to go through 11 and 12 with you. So 9 and 10, I want you doing by yourselves. Don't forget the parentheses, okay? I'll outline this one for you. So these are the ones that are multiplying together. So we'll give you guys your setup for this first one. So we have our 4 in parentheses times x plus 1 equals, again, notice the color coding of what's getting multiplied with what, of 3 times x plus 2. You guys will solve this, and your final answer is x equals 2. Again, for question 10, your final answer is x equals -6, so I'm not going to do the setup. I want you to do that one on your own. Okay, let's do 11 and 12 together. Okay, so again, maybe I'll use the highlighter here. So we're multiplying 6 by 2x minus 7, and I have 3x minus 5 getting multiplied by 8. Immediately, I should be putting those parentheses around every term when I cross multiply. Always. I'm going to do it over here already. I want to see that on your paper. Okay, so let's multiply these. We have 8 times 3x minus 5 equals 6 times 2x minus 7. All right, and that's minus. Okay, let's distribute. So we have 8 times 3x, which is 24x. 8 times 5 is -40. Don't forget that negative, which equals, remember, I'll draw that line down the middle, and we're going to distribute on the right-hand side. 6 times 2x is 12x, and 6 times -7 is -42. And guys, I mean, I'm doing these in my head because I know what those numbers are multiplied, but you guys have a calculator, so use it. Okay? Well, righty. We want to get x by itself, so let's bring over this 12x. Now, what is actually the sign in front of this 12x? What's the sign in front of it? You don't see it. There's actually addition here. So to undo addition, we use subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 12x on both sides. I end up with 12x minus 40 equals that -42. All right, we're almost there. Again, we want to get x alone. We want x alone. So let's add 40 to both sides using the addition property of equality. So I just use the addition property of equality. I have 12x equals -42 plus 40 is -2. And we want to, again, we're getting x alone. So we are going to use the division property of equality because the symbol that's between 12 and x is multiplication. It's just not drawn in there. To undo multiplication, we use division. All right, so I just wrote that here for those of you that need that reminder. So we divided by 12 on both sides, and we have x equals, again, using the calculator, you can simplify that. You'll get -1/6. All right, and hopefully we are okay with that one. Again, you can use the calculator for that alpha y equals to simplify. Alrighty, let's move on to question 12. So now we're on page 10 still. And again, I've got my parentheses. So let's identify what's being multiplied because we're cross-multiplying. We have two fractions. All right. We have 5 times x minus 2 equals, draw that line down the middle, 2 times 3x plus 3. Okay. And again, we're trying to solve for x. So let's distribute. I have 5x minus 10 equals, we're going to distribute here, 2 times 3x is 6x, 2 times +3 is +6. Again, we want to get the x's on the same side, so I notice I have a 5x here and a 6x here. We want to, we like getting x on the left. So I'm going to subtract 6x. The reason why I'm subtracting 6x is because, remember, there's an invisible plus sign here. So I'm going to subtract 6x on both sides. I'm using the subtraction property of equality. And I have -x minus 10 equals 6. Again, I want to get x by itself. So let's use the addition property of equality. I'm adding that 10 to both sides. And I have negative x equals 16. We are almost there. Almost there. There's an invisible 1 out front here, right? I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of this negative 1. Well, right now, this is really negative 1 times x. If I want to undo, let me erase this though here. Let me rewrite it. If I want to undo that multiplication, right, I have negative 1 really times x. That's all that this is. To get rid of the negative 1 that's being multiplied, remember, to undo multiplication, we use division. So I'm going to divide on both sides. Those cancel, and I have x equals negative 16. Okay, hopefully so far we're getting the hang of this. All right, let's keep practicing. I am just going to skip around here. I'm not going to go in order. I want us to take a look at 15 and 16. So we'll do these together. So for question 15 here, you see how this is just a 1? I want to rewrite the number 1 as a fraction, and we can always put any number over 1. So really I'm looking at this fraction. 1 over 1. We're going to cross multiply with our parentheses around everything. So we're doing 15 together. We're going to cross multiply. Okay, so we have x plus 3 times 1 is going to equal x plus 3 times 1. All right, that's weird. Is anyone noticing anything? Okay, well maybe we don't. X plus 3 times 1 is still just going to be x plus 3. And x plus 3 times 1 is still going to be x plus 3. So I have the same thing equals the same thing. Well, when I have the same number equals the same number, then we have infinitely many solutions. This is a little challenging because you're going to see why in a second. So we do have infinitely many solutions. However, remember what I said earlier. That denominator can never equal 0. This denominator can never equal 0. So if I do set it equal to 0, this x plus 3 equal to 0, right? It can't equal 0. So let's bring over the 3. And I have x can just never equal negative 3. Guys, this is a more challenging problem, so if you didn't get this, like, don't worry about it. This is more of a higher level, more advanced concept. So really, your solution here, again, it's infinitely many solutions, except x cannot equal negative 3. So I did lie. I'm actually not going to go over question 16. You can do it if you want to, but I'm not requiring it. Okay, because again, this is more of a challenging question, question 16. If you do decide to do it, your final answer is x doesn't equal negative 2. So there is no solution. Again, I am not requiring this problem, but for those of you guys that like to challenge yourself, if you do decide to do question 16, there's your answer. See if you can get that. All right, so the last one that I'm going to do is question 13, and you are going to do question 14. Okay, so question 13, let's start to multiply. Okay, here we go. Cross multiplication. All right, so I have 6 times 4 equals 3 times x plus 3. And someone should be saying something on the other end, like, Miss Tomei, what are you doing? Guys, what's wrong with what I just did? This is not right. Wrong. What's wrong with what I did? Do you see it? I forgot parentheses. I forgot my parentheses. I did this on purpose. You need parentheses whenever you're multiplying across, when you're cross multiplying. This needed parentheses, and now it's okay. Now we can give it a check. It's okay. You need parentheses. All right, so let's just get to it. We're going to draw our line down the middle. I'm going to distribute. Okay, got my parentheses here. There we go. 6 times 4 is 24. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 3 is 9. We want to get x alone. We want to get x alone. So to get rid of this positive 9, well, the opposite of addition is subtraction, so I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality. And I have 24 minus 9 is 15, which equals 3x. Remember, there's multiplication in between here. You don't see it. To undo multiplication, we use division. So here comes the division property of equality. And I end up with x equals 5. And we're done. Okay, I'm asking you guys to do question 14. Your final answer here is x equals 2. Make sure you arrive at that same answer. You have to show the work. There you guys go. Hopefully you found this helpful.